In 2001, The Fast and the Furious looked like a simple movie about cars, cops, street races, and underground crews. But behind the loud engines and neon lights, the real story was much stranger. This movie almost had a completely different title. Dominic Toretto almost looked nothing like Vin Diesel. Brian O'Connor almost wasn't Paul Walker. And one rapper missed a chance that could have changed his Hollywood career forever. Today, we're looking at 7 facts you probably didn't know about The Fast and the Furious. Each fact gets stranger than the last, and the final one might be the biggest missed opportunity in the entire franchise. Fact number 1. The title almost changed completely. Before the movie became The Fast and the Furious, producers considered several different titles. Some of them were Red Line, Race Wars, Street Wars, and Racer X. Those names sound strange now because The Fast and the Furious feels impossible to replace. It sounds fast, it sounds dangerous, and somehow it sounds bigger than just one movie. But Universal did not originally own that title. Producer Neil H. Moritz discovered an old 1955 movie called The Fast and the Furious. The title belonged to legendary B-movie producer Roger Corman, so Universal had to make a deal to use it. According to the story, they traded stock footage in exchange for the rights to the name. That one small deal changed the identity of the entire franchise. Because imagine if people were saying, "Welcome to the Red Line family" instead. It just does not hit the same. But the title was only the first thing that almost changed. Fact number 2, Race Wars used real car people. The filmmakers knew they could not build the street racing world with random extras who had never touched a modified car. So instead of faking everything, they brought in people from the real import car scene. Car culture figures like Craig Lieberman and RJ De Vera helped connect the production with actual enthusiasts. These were people who understood the cars, the style, the attitude, and the underground energy the movie needed. And the biggest example was Race Wars. That massive scene was filmed at San Bernardino International Airport. The crew recruited people through the internet, and hundreds of real car owners showed up with their own vehicles. Some reports say the crowd reached around 1,500 people. That is why the scene feels different. The cars were not just props. The crowd was not just pretending. A lot of the people on screen actually came from that world. For many viewers, Race Wars was the first time they had ever seen import car culture shown on that scale. The colors, the decals, the engines, the music, the crowd. It felt like a hidden world had suddenly been exposed. But even though the atmosphere was real, not everything in the movie made sense. Fact number 3. Danger to Manifold made almost no sense. Every car fan remembers this scene. During Brian's first race, his laptop suddenly flashes a warning, "Danger to Manifold." Brian ignores it. Then somehow the passenger side floorboard blows off the car. To casual viewers, it looked intense. To car people, it was ridiculous. A manifold problem would not make the floorboard explode like that. It is one of the most confusing technical moments in the entire franchise. But here is the strange part. That mistake helped make the scene unforgettable. Technical advice reportedly suggested something more realistic, like a nitrous or turbo warning. But director Rob Cohen wanted something easy for general audiences to understand quickly, so Danger to Manifold stayed. It was technically wrong, but culturally perfect. More than 20 years later, fans still quote it, joke about it, and use it as one of the best examples of early Fast and Furious car logic. Sometimes the scene that makes the least sense becomes the one people remember the most. And that was not the only surprising thing happening behind the wheel. Fact number 4. 2 major cast members could not drive. For a movie built around high-speed racing, this sounds almost impossible. Michelle Rodriguez and Jordana Brewster did not have driver's licenses before filming began. That means 2 important cast members in one of the most famous car movies ever had to learn fast. The production sent the cast to driving school in Las Vegas, where they trained with performance cars and learned how to handle speed, movement, and control. Michelle Rodriguez had to get comfortable fast because Letty was supposed to look confident around cars. Jordana Brewster also had to adjust quickly, even though Mia was not shown racing in the same way. Paul Walker, on the other hand, took the training even further. During production, he developed a real connection to car culture. What started as preparation became part of his life. That is one reason fans still feel that Walker belonged in the franchise, not just as an actor, but as someone who truly understood the world around it. But while the cast was learning to drive, the producers were still making decisions that could have completely changed the movie's future. Fact number 5, Timothy Oliphant almost played Dom Toretto. Today, it is almost impossible to imagine anyone other than Vin Diesel as Dominic Toretto. But before Diesel got the role, Universal wanted Timothy Oliphant. At the time, Oliphant had appeared in Gone in 60 Seconds, so the studio saw him as a strong choice for another car-centered action film. Producer Neil H. Moritz later said Universal was ready to move forward if Oliphant accepted the role. But Oliphant passed. He reportedly did not believe the movie would work. That one decision opened the door for Vin Diesel, and Diesel brought something completely different to Dom. He made Dom quiet, heavy, intense, and intimidating. Dom was not just a racer. He felt like the leader of a crew, almost like the head of a hidden tribe. And over time, he became the emotional center of the franchise. Without Vin Diesel, the word family might never have become the identity of Fast and Furious. But Dom was not the only character who almost looked completely different. Fact number 6. Eminem almost played Brian O'Connor. Before Paul Walker became Brian O'Connor, another major name was reportedly offered the role: Eminem. At the time, Eminem was one of the biggest music stars in the world. His career was exploding and Hollywood clearly saw his potential, but he turned down the role because he was focused on 8 Mile. And honestly, that decision makes sense. 8 Mile became a defining movie for him, but it also means we almost got a completely different version of Brian O'Connor. Imagine Eminem standing next to Vin Diesel. Imagine him racing the Supra. Imagine him inside Dom's crew trying to balance loyalty and betrayal. It would have changed the entire tone of the movie. Other actors were also considered, including Mark Wahlberg and Christian Bale. But director Rob Cohen eventually chose Paul Walker after working with him on The Skulls. And that choice became one of the most important decisions in the franchise. Walker made Brian feel calm, curious, and human. He was the audience's way into Dom's world. He made viewers believe that Brian was not just pretending to care about the crew, he was slowly becoming part of it. That emotional conflict is one reason the first movie still works. But the final fact is even bigger because it did not just affect one movie, it changed the future of another actor's career. Fact number 7. Ja Rule walked away from a huge sequel opportunity and Ludacris took his place. In the first Fast and Furious, Ja Rule played Edwin, the cocky racer who loses to Dom. His role was small, but he was part of the original street racing atmosphere. At the time, Ja Rule was also a major name in music, so bringing him back for the sequel made sense. When Fast 2 Furious was being made, director John Singleton reportedly wanted Ja Rule to return in a much bigger role, and the offer was much larger than what he made in the first movie. But Ja Rule did not come back. Singleton later said Ja Rule did not return his calls, so he moved on and called Ludacris instead. That one switch changed everything. Ludacris became Tej Parker, and Tej became one of the franchise's recurring characters. He went from a street racing organizer in Miami to one of the key members of the team in later movies. And while the franchise grew into a global box office machine, Ludacris stayed with it for years. That means one missed opportunity helped create another actor's long-running Hollywood role. It is one of the most surprising what-if moments in the entire franchise, because Ja Rule did not just pass on a sequel role, he passed on a seat inside one of the biggest action franchises of all time. And that is what makes the first Fast and Furious so fascinating. So many things almost went the other way. The title almost changed. Race Wars could have looked fake. The most famous technical mistake somehow became legendary. 2 cast members had to learn how to drive. Dom almost was not Vin Diesel. Brian almost was not Paul Walker. And Ludacris only entered the franchise after Ja Rule walked away. The first movie was not perfect. It had strange dialogue, impossible car logic, and plenty of mechanical nonsense. But it had energy, it had timing, and most importantly, it felt alive. Maybe that is the real reason people still care about the Fast and the Furious. It was not always realistic, but it became unforgettable.